The River Tigris, downstream, lies ISIS territory. I had landed in Iraq a few days earlier and boarded a boat to cross the Tigris into Syria. This was the first time I'd entered Syria in this way. ISIS would inevitably know we were here and would want to do us harm. During my time in Syria, these would be the first of many ravaged families I'd encounter. With all of the destruction it's left in its path, ISIS has perhaps done more damage to families than anything else, often in some very unexpected ways. We're in a region that the people here call Rojava. It is sandwiched between two ISIS strongholds of Mosul in Iraq and Raqqa, ISIS de facto capital, which is pretty much straight ahead of us. Now, the reason why we're not completely insane to be here is because this region is controlled by the Kurds, specifically by their fighting force, the YPG, or People's Protection Units. And they are fighting ISIS along a 250-mile-long front line, which is over to the left of us here. And if ISIS is to be defeated, then the people here are going to play a crucial part in that. We drove in 2 hours across more than 10 military checkpoints. I knew from experience this is nothing unusual when battles are raging close by. We drive past oil fields, the energy that has fueled so many wars in the Middle East, but learn that today only 1/10 of these wells are still in operation as Syria moves into its 5th year of civil war and descends deeper into dysfunction. We're on our way to meet with the YPG militia, passing through the capital of Rojava, a city called Qamishli, where 2 ISIS suicide bombers have recently struck in one day. This region's name, Rojava, means the land where the sun sets in Kurdish. Further to the west, the battle with ISIS is raging. We're heading to a town called Hasaka, where the Kurdish forces and ISIS are engaged in a substantial battle. I guess the biggest risk to us is that there have been suicide bombings at checkpoints on the way to that town, so we need to try to get past those checkpoints quickly to make it less likely that we're there at the same time that something like that happens. And then once we get there, there's the danger of snipers, and ISIS leave mines everywhere they go if they retreat, so you have to be careful. Hasaka city symbolizes Syria's multi-sided civil war and the destruction wrought after a failed revolution in 2011. It has been held in places by a military loyal to the country's dictator, President Bashar al-Assad, by rebels determined to overthrow him, fighters aligned to Al-Qaeda, and by the Kurdish YPG. Over 120,000 Syrians have lost their lives since 2011, and amid this chaos, ISIS has thrived.
Right now we can see smoke rising across the city over there, and it's being fought over by 3 sides, by Assad's regime, by ISIS, and by the Kurds, the YPG. This checkpoint is what?
Call it Ghazal checkpoint. Hot fighting here in this position.
There was?
It was under control of ISIS.
This checkpoint was under control of ISIS?
Yeah. When? The beginning of the problem here about 1 month ago.
About a month ago?
Yeah.
Meeting with some of the men and women pushing back against ISIS, I'm struck by 2 things. How little ground support in Syria, America's most reliable ally, the Kurds, are getting, and how young many of their fighters are. ISIS is running away, they tell us. We see smoke rising, the aftermath of artillery targeting ISIS positions. Strange, though, to hear it from someone this young. What's become of his family? Another fighter shows me video on his cell phone from an area recently taken back from ISIS. He found syringes he says ISIS suicide bombers used to inject themselves with drugs before their missions. Everywhere there is evidence of suicide attacks by ISIS. One man knows all too well what that's like. He's someone you might least expect to find here. Robert Rose, a US citizen from the South Bronx.
We heard a boom and we're like, oh, that was kind of close. Then, like the biggest bomb I ever seen, it was just over there. Like, you know, about 200 meters in the air, a big fireball, and we were getting attacked. There was a suicide bomber trying to come through here, but he hit one of our mines.
He is one of a group of foreign fighters, including quite a few Westerners, recruited over the internet who call themselves the Lions of Rojava. But what makes an American give up everything to come here and fight?
I've hated terrorists ever since 2001, you know, when they attacked us at home, you know, and what pains me the most is the women and children who were affected by this. This was the opportunity that I had to come not going into the U.S. Army, because I was a single parent, so I could never join the U.S. Army. I've been a single parent since I was about 17.
Rose tells me he left his 8-year-old son, Jonathan, at home with his parents. Another family torn apart by ISIS, but this time in an unexpected and shocking way, by choice.
Yeah, I've explained it to him, tried to, but you know, he's still young. I can't get into details about it, you know. And I don't want him to see what they do, but I just tell him I'm going to fight bad people and help innocent people, and he understands that much. And I just tell him, you know, I'll be back, you know.
But you might not be back.
But I might not be back.
But if Rose is a man so driven by the horror of ISIS to risk his life and leave his family behind, Amir is quite the opposite. We met in the town of Rimalan. He's a prisoner of the YPG now, a former ISIS fighter. But he didn't join the terrorist group for the sake of his family. He joined because he craved one.
ما حزنا ذكر پر حواله متنا أنا ندوت أنا يعني دشو منده در موينة مرندو ريوسسه إشتا حزنا ذكر دقوت هر عندما أنا حياة كم هاو أورك هاو يعني كاسك ما حزنا ذكر إشتا ده بوبه ما هاوكي دوت سرمه
ISIS promised inclusion to Amir for the first time, and money, a home, and a wife.
وقتی که سوزو وقتی که هم ترکیه مرا اشتا خبرات گو برو ور دکه ماکی دکه نوبت بگره ریبوت بگره ماکی شونده دکه اشتا ریبوتا خو سوق بشونده دکه ایش که بیدنه واشونده جیانه کون دخواز بزاویجه دخواز مزاویجه تارمایه أنا بدكنا مول تادنا مول كتادنا أنا تشتت دكنا تادنا ما يجي $50 دكنا تادنا.
Amir trained for 2 months and never saw a penny. He was heading to Raqqa with other recruits when his training group was bombed, killing 6 of the people around him. He dropped his gun and ran, surrendering to the YPG to save his life, or what was left of it.
أرايك بيم شيء فأنا برا دشلمش من أنا خاطر ماري خاطر ماري دشاوتين أنا تشتك بار نوده أنا ماري أنا بوشون حياتي مش شاوتي أنا بوشون هاد نكون بتشتك بكم هارم ور دكنا مبكوجنا هارم تركيا دكما بوفن الجزائر وربم ديسو الجزائر يعني تشتك من نامه يعني حياتي مصوب بوشون أنا إيه متانة فلتين كيما هاي بوش مرنا بو بتر تشتك متانة.
The next day, we visit a school that a group of families who had fled the jihadists now call home. We met Youssef, who lived under ISIS rule for 2 weeks, but managed to escape.
يعني كشتن ما بتعرف خديتي أهلي ما كشتنا زاروك بتشوشك أوجي كشتنا يعني ريوان ولو دريج درباز دكن ولو راسن شرجيت كانوا دمشن طلقاكي برددن ودمشن يعني بسلوبي ولو وحشي درباسي أبو هندري عالم يديه يعني جينا حايد نقل جينا تديتي فجأة نقول درباسي مالي دكن فجأة نقول سرسري مالي سكن سربي ركعت سكن الله أكبر خير ما ولو كري الله أكبر شيء جيتكن يعني وحشية يعني قال لك أنا آزل بقشتوية زاروك شونه وقال لك يبيرك شونه بظلم شونه وقال لك يا عالمي إيه إسلامي يقولوا تديت المار ونشتي الزنبي وأنتنا شير جيتكن تبي واي غلطك تغلط الدست ونقد ولو جيتكن ودافيجن عايش ولو ساق سليم هما سر حياتي ولو دب راسنا كيرك أهول الدستيوان ضيق راسنا مرو جيتكن ودافيجن.
Just after we left Syria, The YPG reclaimed Hasaka from Islamic State militants, but Kurdish commanders told us battle plans have not been drawn yet for Raqqa, the Islamic State's self-proclaimed capital. Now I am left with memories of this refuge. There are no guarantees that its walls will protect these people for very long, and the power of ISIS continues to shatter homes throughout the region. But the will of these families to hold on to one another in the worst of possible circumstances has a power of its own.
Hey NBC News fans, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here, and then click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.